Hey guys, so let me show you briefly how this painting process went on.
Enough! You are all of you beneath me. I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
Puny god.
And it really looked like this. The plan was to have a pretty easy painting session, because I really know how to paint skin and Hulk is mostly skin. I really know how to do that, and it is always a lot of fun for me. But unfortunately I miscalculated a few things regarding this model. The first and obvious one was the scale of the miniature. And I really don't know what was the issue with the green paint I have. They were really not covering at all. I think at some point I made more than 50, probably more than 60 layers of the paint on the skin on this model. But thank the holy and mighty emperor, this miniature has very defined muscles. And this coupled with the scale of the model resulted in that even after so many layers I could paint over it without stripping him. So initially this was intended to be a long format video, but the amount of materials I have, this is probably even too long for YouTube. I think I have a few hours of clips, and this is not even half of the time that I put into painting this model. I will upload all of it into my Patreon, and this will be the scheme from now on. So if there will be a video that is supposed to be a longer format, but over 2 hours, then it will land on the Patreon. So please consider having a look at it. Even in the lowest tier you will have access to all of the materials from now on. And of course some other cool options, so check it out. So alright, let's see the painting process. As always, the process will be sped up to 400%. So if you want to see the real-time version, just lower the speed to 0.25, but then the voice will also slow down. I had this model in the original package, so I started by opening the box and carefully removing the pieces from the sprue. I used super glue to attach all of the bits. Normally I use plastic cement for plastic models, but I wanted to have a quick and sturdy result, and I knew there would be a lot of work afterwards with him. I will consider this as a mistake on my part, because instead of making a paste with milliput and isopropyl alcohol, I should have used a clear milliput. This resulted in a very thin film on the cracks and holes, and it shrank in a few places and left visible holes that I did not correct later. After a day I went in with all of the sanding materials I had to remove the mold lines and the milliput. After that I cleaned him very carefully with the Winsor & Newton brush cleaner. My boy and the base were ready for priming and the first black layer of paint. Up to this point everything looked and felt really good, and I was really happy with the outcome. The plan here was really simple. I wanted to give him a base layer, then do the base, glue him to the finished base and finish the rest of the model afterwards. The base was really important to me, as it is such an integral and beautiful part of this model. I took my time and did no dry brushing this time, which is a standard part of every base painting for me. As you can see on the palette, I had different browns and reds for the bricks, and just went on with painting smaller and smaller areas with brighter colors, and of course doing the edge highlights. Those two next parts seemed metallic to me, and as they were the only two metallic parts, I could afford to put some time into them and do an NMM on both. I wasn't really sure if the long one was a part of the sidewalk, so I went with grey shades, and then I could interpret this as a metal, concrete, or even as a long carved stone. I had the most fun with the rest of the base. After applying Baylor Brown, I took an old big synthetic brush and started wet blending and stippling paints randomly on it. There was no specific rule here. If I felt it needed more of the X color, it got it. After a few minutes of stippling and blending, I did the edge highlights on it and called it a day. Up till now I was really happy and was even of the impression that this might turn out to be the best model I have ever done. Why should I think other way? I know how to paint and highlight the skin, and apart from that, he had some minor details like the pants or the hair. Those are not that important. Unfortunately for me, something went wrong and I had to apply many layers of paint on the skin. I did what I always do, which is to make in-between tones to soften the transitions. 2 between each color to be exact. I don't really know if I didn't shake the paints well enough, the sponge on the wet palette was not distributing water in the correct way, maybe the paints were shit, or maybe the paper was too dry. No idea till this day. The result nevertheless was very cartoony in a bad sense. All of the colors were very visible. The intended transitions were not existent. The painting took ages, a few hours if I recall correctly. The paints were not covering, and in a few small areas even peeled the green base layer when applied. A disaster in a nutshell. Everything you don't want to happen in such a paint job. At the end, I even considered giving up on painting the skin and leaving it as it is, painting the rest and making another video on how I failed. Well, I went for a short sleep and woke up in a totally different mood, with a clear mind and with a last resort idea. It is always very easy to give up, but this model had a few advantages. It was pretty big, and all of the shapes of the muscles were big as well. This meant that the previous paint layers didn't destroy the details. I went for the plan X, as it even cannot be called plan B. After carefully covering the base, to not paint over it, I layered the skin once again with Caliban green. When it was dry, I airbrushed a thick layer of matte varnish to seal the paint and avoid it from falling off again. Well, I did that, then went to work and came back determined to succeed. After thinking about it, I summarized the weak points of my way of working on him and turned them into a success plan. He is big. He has big muscles. Why was I using the brush then? He is the size of a dreadnought or even a bit bigger. Would I paint a dreadnought with the brush? Of course you can do that, no doubt there. But for the sake of speed I would airbrush it, and this is what I did here. The Caliban green didn't cover perfectly, but this was not a problem. I took the same paints as previously and thinned them substantially and started airbrushing. This gave me a great smooth transition between each of them, and the progress was really fast in comparison to the previous day. A light in the tunnel finally. The only difference was that instead of Flash Kids Yellow I used Aerial Yellow, and I sprayed some magenta Liquitex inks for the shadows. At this point I knew that this would be a success. I was so happy. The model I wanted to strip or leave the day before turned out to be great. The rest of the story was painting his nails, the eyes, the hair and the pants. I was in such a rush to finish him that I just painted the pants violet and started wet blending and layering it with purple and pink. It didn't matter to me at this point. All was well. I will leave you for a few extra seconds with the painting process and see you at the model presentation at the finish. And this is the finished model. My very own success story. I had great hopes for him. Started with a high note, got beaten down extensively in the middle, but came back in the end. There are of course a few things, as for example the holes between the parts that could have been covered better, or the inconsistent paint job in a few parts. But apart from that, I will consider him as one of my best paint jobs, if not the best one. What do you guys think? Leave a comment, I will really appreciate it. So guys, thanks a lot for staying this long. I really appreciate each and every one of you. So subscribe to the channel, like and share. Also have a look at my Patreon and my Instagram. They should be visible right now. And they will also be visible in the video description, of course. Also feel free to write me a comment under the video or an email. My email address will be visible also in the under the video. I will try to answer all of the comments and all of the emails. And I think I have done that so far. So take care guys and see you in the next one. And of course, the Emperor protects.